Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh, Shem, Shai, Bashim, Makakadah, Shalom to the hopefully left out there. Real quick, I'm going to entitle this video, Old Maps from the 1700s proves that the people of West Africa are Israelites. It's a long title, but anyway, you got here a picture, and these were, European navigators, Italians, and so forth. Ultimately, the Dutch came in and other Europeans. You had the Dutch, involved in the African trade and colonizing, Africa, parts of Africa. Had the Portuguese, which were involved in the slave trade, along with the Spaniards and the English, and of course the American, so-called European, which is clearly a fulfillment of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now, when you go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, it speaks about the curses these curses will follow you from whatever nation you go to. So it's not one event. Deuteronomy chapter 28 is not a curse that means this and that, this is going to happen. And the fulfillment of that is when the Babylonians took you down. Or the fulfillment of that, Deuteronomy 28:16, is when the Romans occupied Palestine and made you tributary to them, meaning you paid taxes. See, the Romans, if you go back to the history of the Romans and the Israelites, we're talking like 2,000 years ago, which Jake eventually took over. The first, and I've said this before, the first Caesar was Julius Caesar, which his name was Caesar. So when they mention the Caesar, they don't mention his name, but he was actually the first Caesar. So when you do the history on the Caesars, and even in their books, it tells you the first Caesar, the first emperor, was a man by the name of Julius Caesar. And then you had others that were known as Caesar, became a title. The Russian czars, the word czar is a Russian way of saying Caesar. Or I believe Khazar is another way of saying Caesar. There's another way. Yeah, you got czar. Well, even in the States, in the Americas, in the U.S., you have certain departments of government where you have czars. This is the czar of, the Department of Motor Vehicles. He's the czar of this. He's the czar of that. So that word czar goes back to Caesar. Oh, Kaiser. The German rulers during the time before World War I and going into World War II, they were called czars. You had what was it? If you go to Revelation chapter 9, it speaks about the angel of the bottomless pit. Well, that was, what czar was that? I hadn't gone through this in a while. Not Tsar Nicholas, but she was a czar. There was the premier or the czar of Germany during the time of World War I. Can't even think of the actual name. But it'll come back to me. I'm thinking about it. Hey, that's what happens when you get old. Give me a second. Let me do this. It was a Kaiser. I'm sorry, Kaiser Wilhelm, or Kaiser Wilhelm II. The reign of which he was a king. It wasn't he wasn't elected as president. He was actually a king. And Kaiser goes back to Caesar. So it says the reign of Kaiser. Now, what was it called in the Russia? Was called I believe it was called Czars. Yeah, Czars, which all go back to Caesar. Bear me for a minute. I pulled it up on my smartphone. Okay, Kaiser Wilhelm II. The reign of Kaiser Wilhelm II is as king. So during the time of the late 1800s going into the early 1900s during World War I. Now, what does it say? The angel of the bottomless pit was King or Tsar Wilhelm II. It says as king of Prussia, which is Germany, and emperor of Germany from 1888 to 1918, saw the meteoric rise of Germany as an economic and military power. That's a whole nother lesson centered around why there was a World War One and a World War Two, and they both started behind Germany. There's a reason behind it, but that's a whole different, that's a whole different topic as to why there was a war between, Britain and the Allied forces. Anyway, let's get back into this. I just wanted to cover it as lessons within lessons. Please forgive me. But anyway, these maps were put together by map makers. What do they call them? Cartography. I believe that's the term, which is a maker. That was a fancy way of saying a map maker. Because you had to make maps because you had to know where you were going on ships. So it says right here, it says Kingdom of Judah, location during the time of the 1700s. Who put this map together? Europeans put this map together. You got Nigeria. You got Jake living all throughout Nigeria. The Ibu or the Hebrews. Cameroon. Jake came out of Cameroon. Chad, Niger, Mali, Mauritania. You got the island called Cape Verde. You got a boxer by the name of Demetrius Andrade. He's a world champion boxer out of Rhode Island, I believe Providence. And his line goes back to the Cape Verde people. They're beautiful people. The women are gorgeous. And take out some time and put in Cape Verde, put in images. You see the woman. They're very beautiful. They look kind of like Simeonites, Senegal. As Jake lived all up in Senegal, Gambia. These are all Jakes right here. Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Ben meaning sons of, and I believe if you go back far enough, I think it's Beninim, which would be sons, but Ben is son in Hebrew. And their language is close to the Hebrew language. When they greet each other, I don't know if they do that now, but when they greet each other, they'll say shalama, shalama. Where'd they get that from? Because they were living in the land of Israel. Cameroon, you have Jakes all through there. Then you have out of, I believe, the Bantu people, if not the Benin people, it was the Bantu people that migrated down into South Africa, which is the Zulus. They call the Zulus. The ancient Zulus, they originally were Bantu people, so they were Israelites. And then you had Jake. You had Hannibal. Hannibal. It was in North Africa. It wasn't in West Africa, and his kingdom was called Carthage. And when you looked up that word up, Hannibal Barca. Barca is a Hebrew word. Depending on how you say it, it either means blessed or lightning. You can say Barak or Barak. Barak is lightning. And his name was probably meant lightning because he came down on the Romans. The Romans went to conquer that land. They never conquered it. Never conquered it. So, you know, Hannibal Barca, the Israelite, he said, we're going to take over Rome, but he couldn't take over Rome because he lost many of his men going over the Alps mountains. And he lost a great number of the men, but that was all done by the hands of the Most High because the Roman Empire was supposed to be great because the Most High established the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had its great rule because that was a fulfillment of prophecy. So all these people right here, all you so-called Negroes in America that woke up to the fact that you're Israelites, most likely you came, if you're Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or you have the Lambda, which are Israelites. You have small hats, JJs, that say that the Lambda tribe, which are so-called black people, there's more so-called black Jews than there are white Jews. And you have small hats or JJs that would admit that. So if the Jews are actually black, then we can't be the Jews. We're so-called black. So anyway, let's move on. You have another map here. You can hardly see it. You need like a magnifying glass. Let me see something. Okay, let me do this. This is Negro land. Let me see here. Okay, you see right there? Kingdom of Judah. Juda. Sometimes you spell it Juda or Judah. Judah. And it says Wida. Wida. That's another way of saying, I believe it's the French way, but I believe French is Quida. But Wida is also Judah. Because we wouldn't say Judah, we would say Yahweh. So it says Wida slave coast. You have, Bishop Nathaniel going into a lot of these maps, which they be getting down. We'll give them credit. We'll give them credit. We'll give you credit where credit is due. So you got Benin, which they were Israelites, kingdom of Benin. You have a fort called Fort Judah. Oh, the wider people. Let me see something. Where's wider? Wider's right here, right? The wider kingdom or the Judah kingdom was taken over by the Dahomey, which were Israelites that took over other Israelites. And Israelites sold other Israelites. There was this one particular king that was selling his wives to the so-called white man. And we didn't put these maps together. These are Europeans that put this map together. It tells you in Deuteronomy 28, a nation from far speaking a language that you don't understand. That's talking about, it started with the Romans all the way up until this time period. Okay, let me do this. Okay, this is a beautiful map right here. This is the same map, but it's a close-up. As you can see, this stands for kingdom. Let me do something. Now, let me do this. Kingdom of Judah, or Wida, which is another way of saying Jews are trying to say Yahuda, Yahuda, slave coast. There it is again. Wida, Wida, Judah F. Then he had a fort called Fort Judah. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say Shalom.